Good morning and welcome to the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. I'm Esther.
And I'm Melanie.
And today we're joined by Jay Blake, the Connoisseur of Connection and the Village Chief. Welcome, Jay.
Good morning, and it's a real pleasure to join you today. Thank you for having me on.
So that's a bit of a... okay, so the Connoisseur of Connection and the Village Chief, where does that come from? What
I love about both is that I didn't choose either of them. So Connoisseur of Connection is something that was said about me, and the Village Chief was born out of having created my digital village. And it's really important that people understand that it is my digital village. Therefore, it's not Jay Blake's digital village, it's my digital village. And the reason I love its name is because the moment you say its name, it becomes yours.
Mm. Okay. And where is this village?
This village,
digital.
This village is exactly where you are. So it's on your sofa. It's sat on your knee when you're lying in bed. It's on your laptop. It's on your desktop. It works on a mobile device, but it does prefer being on a laptop or a desktop generally because of the platform that we make use of.
So who would be using this platform? I thought I'd intersect at some stage. You seem to be making this a pattern now, Esther. You're now, making it the Esther and guest show. So here I am. Hello.
Welcome, Melanie.
Thanks for joining us, Melanie. It's great to have you here.
Brilliant. So tell us, Jay. She's gone. So tell us, Jay, who would be buying this, or do you buy it, or is it free, or who's it for?
It is for people who want to make a connection. It is about relationship first and business second. I know a lot of very good digital communities that are business focused, and where people, as a result of doing business, sometimes make friends. That's not what the village is about. The village is, I don't know whether you've ever walked into a village and walked past the village hall and you've looked at the board outside the hall and you see, oh, wow, they've got pole dancing on a Thursday night. They've got the Women's Institute on a Tuesday morning. They've got all sorts of things. And there is the most amazing cacophony of events and things going on for everybody. So there's a business drop-in centre that happens on a Wednesday morning. There's the book club that happens on a Friday afternoon. And that's absolutely, and in the digital space, what I'm generating and creating. So that there is literally something for everyone.
Well, sounds like Clubhouse.
Yeah, I guess you could say it sort of is like Clubhouse. And lots of things have been created and grown over the last little while, and this happens to be the community that I'm drawing together. Trust is my drug of choice. I talk about it both within my personal life and within my business life, and I operate my village where trust is the currency. People will exchange goods using pounds and euros and US dollars, but actually the currency of the village is trust. And that's where I get my greatest excitement.
So how long has it been established, Jay?
The idea was born in the spring of last year. So I looked out over the green fields and the pond and I went, you know what? One day there's going to be a village here, and I'm now sat here. You can, for the two of you can see, but I'm now sat here looking out of the village pub, which is called the Welcome Inn, onto the high street. You can see villageart.uk, which is our resident artists shop, and you can see all of the different shops that are available on the high street. We've now got about 25 shops on the high street. And it's here, and I can smell it, I can hear it, I can see it. We've got events going on in the Welcome Inn, and we've got the village hall that's got all sorts of things going on in it, and it's just a really exciting place to be.
And how do you make that switch from, meeting in person and making your connections in person to being able to make real connections digitally?
I think that if you'd said that to anybody back at the beginning of 2020, people would have gone, "Nah, I don't need." I mean, I was introduced to Remo, which is a platform that we use back at the end of 2019 because I network a lot. And somebody said, "Yeah, this would be a great add-on to what you do," and it was. And it went from being an add-on to an absolute necessity overnight. And you say to people, do you use a Hoover? And actually, most of them don't. They use a Dyson or something else. Well, do you use Zoom? Is now the same kind of conversation. Well, most people recognize and are comfortable with that. This is just an extension to that and a way of making it much more user-friendly. And again, it's about control for me. So Remo enables the visitor at an event to choose where they are at that event. Zoom historically, and I know it's improved just recently, but Zoom historically was very organizer-centric. So the organizer told you which group you went into, which side room you went into, who you got to talk to. Remo doesn't do that. Remo will only allow each individual to decide where in that conference space they are and enable them to move around from room to room as they choose to. And for me, that's the whole thing about building relationships, is that it's about having consent. It's about being able to choose where you are and finding people that you've got something in common with. If you start having a conversation and you get on, you carry on the conversation. If you start the conversation and nothing really is going down, or you want to talk about something else, or you see somebody else that you want to go and talk to the other side of the pub, you can just go over there and continue that conversation in the digital space. So it's great.
Just out of interest, in real life, when you go to the pub, you go and see two people talking, and you think, "Oh, I would like to speak to one of those two people," and you can stand next to them, and you can be seen standing next to them, waiting for your turn to speak. Can you do something like that in the village as well?
Absolutely. You go
and you can be seen waiting.
You can go and sit at the table, and as you join the table, the conversation is still happening with the other people on the table, and God willing, and with a fair wind, somebody will say, "Hi, Jay, great to see you." Or
so that's the same as Remo.
Yeah, that is Remo. Yeah.
Oh, I was talking about the village.
The village uses Remo.
Oh, right, with you. Okay, so okay. Because I would love to be able to go to an event, a virtual event, and be able to go up to the stand and have a look around at the stand, and then wait for my opportunity to speak to someone, but knowing that I wasn't being ignored, but I was waiting to be seen. Do you know what I mean? Because
absolutely,
we've done a lot of virtual things, and you can't see if you're the second person, or the eighth person, or you've not been noticed at all. So that would be an added benefit for a conference organizer who wants to have paid stands, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the kind of thing that we're doing. I mean, we've got Good Friday's we're well within 2 weeks of Good Friday now, and we've got our farmers market taking place to kind of enable people to come and get a bit of a flavour for what the village is like, and just meet some great people who've been doing everything that they can to get through the last few months, seeking to have good conversations, because that's what it's about. It's about having good conversations.
And as we're coming out of lockdown in, a lot of the world, and at different stages and different adaptations of that coming out process, where do you see the village in 3 months, 6 months, a year? The typical, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
It's so funny. I was talking to somebody about that just this morning. I have a great friend of mine who's a marketing guru, and about 10 years ago, he used to talk about where do you want your business in 10 years' time. And then about a year later, you'd go to the same talks that he did, and he'd be saying, "Well, where do you see your business in 5 years' time?" And about a year later, you'd go to the same talk, and he'd say, "Where?" So yeah, and that horizon is getting closer. But to answer your question, there is so much that we've learnt through the pandemic. There's so much that we've learned about what we can do. We've learned that we can build relationships without giving somebody a hug. We've learned that we can do business without being in the same room. We've learned that you can be in the States and I can be in the UK, and we can have conversations and discover that we've got stuff in common and discover that we want to work together. And all of that, I hope and I pray, will stay with us. And so what I believe will happen is that the village will provide a space for those sorts of things to take place, and that there will be occasions when we go out to the pub and we see people in person, and there'll be occasions when we sit at home and continue to build those relationships.
So digital relationships is the answer to the question, how does business continue through a pandemic?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And with relationships first, because I think that's the thing that we've all discovered in the last 18 months, is that actually when we've got good relationships, when we have a tribe around us and have got people around us that care about helping each other, that the business will come from that. If all we're worried about and focused on is the bottom line, then actually we'll come to the other end without any relationships, because actually that it's very easy to see straight through that kind of stuff. But actually, if we genuinely care about other people, then all of a sudden we discover that actually business comes through it.
Well, I guess it's Maslow's hierarchy, isn't it? That a sense of belonging is an imperative. It's a moral imperative in human beings, just as important as food and shelter is. But wanting to progress and learning, that's another thing that's on Maslow's hierarchy. So you're actually meeting two critical criteria directly from Maslow's hierarchy. So how can you progress this? I mean, you've got this platform up now. What sort of add-ons can people look forward to, or is there stuff you got down the pipeline? And this isn't the 5 years ahead. I'm talking more short term.
Yeah, of course. What does every good village have? So every good village has a pub. Every good village has a village hall and a place for people to gather. I'm very blessed that I've got some great friends, one of which said to me, "Jane, your village is missing a church. So we'll add that into the mix at some point." And I can imagine there's going to be all sorts of opportunities to meet together. So I can see us having a bandstand, so that we've got more music taking place of varying sorts. And we've got a bustling high street, so I can imagine that we will have kind of beauty events. We'll have conferences that take place, because I can host up to 500 people in the village hall, and I can have 4 groups of 500 people meeting all at the same time. So we can cater for significant numbers. It's just a question of what is it that how do people want to gather, and under what umbrella and in what ways.
And how often do the villagers meet?
They meet as frequently as they like to. So where I'm aiming to be is that the pub is open every night, and that we've got events going on every day, and that those are different events. So at the moment we've got a business coach that runs an Eat That Frog event. So I don't know whether you've read the book Eat That Frog. So it talks about kind of looking at the list of things you've got to do, and there's always that big, nasty, green, slimy one that you go, actually, if only I could get that out of the way, everything else would be fine. And he's encouraging us to get that one out of the way. We've got somebody else that's talking about portfolio careers, and they have events looking at people who've got portfolios of work and helping them to work out all of the challenges around that. So yeah, a real variety of ways of gathering. And what I love about the village is that every time I have a conversation, what it has to offer is bigger. So in the early days, we didn't have a travel agent, and then the following day we did. In the early days, we didn't have a pet shop, and then we did.
So just out of interest, are you the only person that can instigate the meetings, or can each person who goes onto the platform instigate their own?
I've got an admin team that we can accept requests for events, and we can put those on for either villagers or ambassadors or shopkeepers.
Okay, so you're like a giant notice board.
Yeah.
Cool.
And providing the actual space.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you need the notice board to provide the space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how is this afforded? You know, how do people pay? Is it monthly? Is it annually?
Yeah. So there's two ways that people pay. And again, we are doing things slightly differently. So villagers pay to be a villager. Our first 500 villagers are all able to get access to the village for just £5 a month. And that's how they access the village and come along and get involved. I've had all sorts of fun conversations around the fact that everybody should be able to get in for free, because if Facebook had charged £5 a month, it would never have become what it is. To which my answer is very simply, if I've got 1,000 villagers, I'll be thrilled. If I've got 3,000 villagers, I'm probably going to need to have more than one village. And we'll worry about that if and when we get to that point. But I'm not looking for tens of thousands of villagers. I'm looking for a community that is Marmite, a community that understands the value of trust and wants to operate in that way. So I want it to be a very special place to be, not somewhere that there are thousands and thousands of people.
But it's a marketplace as well, isn't it? It's not
Absolutely.
just a place to meet.
Absolutely.
So people can purchase stuff directly through the village.
They can go into the various shops and engage with the various shopkeepers who are both business to business and business to consumer. So yeah, absolutely. And I was just speaking to one of the shopkeepers this morning who started a new Shopify site and already sold a couple of pieces of her artwork through her new site, and she's thrilled.
Cool. And you mentioned Good Friday. So Good Friday's coming up soon, very soon. Lots of Easter eggs. And
Absolutely.
What event do you have then over the Easter weekend?
We've got two. Well, actually, you could say we've got four. We've got the farmers market on Good Friday. We have got a Easter fair on the Saturday, and then in the evenings we've got a live band on the Good Friday night, along with a quiz. And on the Saturday we've got a magician who has absolutely transitioned his skills in the light of the pandemic, so that he's now doing stuff online and really changed a lot of the way he does his work.
Okay. And can anybody join in these events? Do you have to be a villager?
Anybody can join in the daytime events. So anybody can come to the farmers market or the Easter fair during the day, but villagers will be able to access the evening events in the welcome inn. We're trying to encourage people to join the village.
Cool.
So very much when somebody says, this sounds interesting, what's in it for me? What would be the pointers that you'd give people?
The simple answer is it's both what you bring and what you take away. So like every good village, it's made up of the people that are in it. And so what is available to be taken away at the moment is a number of things, including pet shop, travel agent, all sorts of useful goods and services from the high street, as well as a place to meet and a place to build relationships and a place to learn all sorts of things that are available as we speak. But I'm going to talk to somebody later today. They might join the village, and what it's got available to it will therefore be different tomorrow. So it's a constantly growing and evolving place.
Did you have a village that has a different language?
I have absolutely no problem with different languages being used within the village, but that's not something that I've explored yet. We are in the early days.
Oh yeah, no, I was just wondering if that was something you could accommodate.
I've no other than the little bit of Cantonese that I can speak and a little bit of German, a little bit of French that I can speak. That's as far as my language goes, but that isn't to say that I'm very open to having those kind of conversations.
Oh, well, that's handy to know. Okay, well, thanks very much, Jay.
Yeah, thanks for coming and joining us today, Jay, and thanks for sharing the information about the village. We'll put your links into the bottom of the podcast here so that people can connect and hopefully see you at the Easter weekend. And if you're listening to this after Easter weekend, then connect with Jay and learn more about My Village. Thanks very much for joining us.
And if you missed it, well, it was your loss.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much for joining us today, everyone. And we'll talk again next week. Bye-bye.